What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Louie T, here with another installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. Hope this Monday is treating you well. Man, what a weekend of the association, and it had nothing to do with the on-court product. As often in the NBA, we're talking more about things going on off the court, which it's not like it's bad, right? But it's usually the off the court antics or, massive trades. Nobody does trades quite like the NBA, but this one takes the cake. I don't think we've ever seen a trade of this magnitude in any sport. And I don't know if we ever will again. This trade redefines what a blockbuster deal looks like. So when you hear someone, oh, it's a blockbuster trade. No. If it's not remotely close to this, you can't call it a blockbuster deal. This is, from now on, what a blockbuster deal looks like. And we may never see another one of these again. We're going to talk about it. Lots of layers to peel back here. We'll talk about the SWIPA trade. He's now in San Antonio. Zach LaVine is now a Sacramento King, and the Bulls are just going to hell in a handbasket. So we'll get to all of those, and we'll talk about Jimmy Butler as well, because we haven't really talked association in a while. So we'll just knock everything out while we're here. You're locked into the 480th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 480th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Lots to get to today. We're going to get to all of it. Let me start by first talking about a little non sequitur real quick. This Sunday was the first Sunday of many to come where I had no NFL action to consume. Now, it wouldn't have mattered if my team had advanced to the Super Bowl or not. We still would not have had NFL action to consume this week, but there would have been a different vibe, obviously. But I was able to sit down. Now, it's bittersweet. Sundays are meant for relaxation. That's what I've always felt. That's how I've always conducted myself on Sundays. And I love the NFL. I love watching football. That's relaxing to me, except for when my team's playing. That's nerve-wracking, but still, I'm relaxing. But there's nothing quite like just sitting on the couch on a Sunday afternoon with my wife, consuming television programming. And that's what we did for the first time in what felt like months. Obviously, on a Sunday. We've done it on Saturdays and even Friday nights, but it hits different on a Sunday. It felt great. And we watched a lot of things that we had been putting off for a while. Don't know if any one of you out there consumes Harlem. This is the final season of Harlem. And I guess they're releasing them episode by episode, on a weekly basis. Not accustomed to them doing that. Normally they just put the entire season out, or maybe by the time we get to it, they have already put all the episodes out. And this is what they've done for each of the first two seasons, and season 3 is no different. I don't know. I could be wrong there, so don't quote me on that. But we're all caught up there. The Night Agent is back for those of you who enjoy that. And what episode are we on? I think we're on episode 4. We've watched the first 3 episodes of The Night Agent. This one's a little bit more convoluted than the first season. There's multiple storylines, and you got to see how they all kind of connect to one another. But so far, so good. That's gotten off to a great start for us. So we've started to dig into The Night Agent. I have yet to finish. So my wife quit on me. This is what I have to deal with. She quit on me on the Penguin. She quit on me. So I'm going to have to forge forward alone. And I was able to knock down 2 more episodes of that by myself. So I'm getting closer and closer to the end of that. That's really good too. So got a lot of programming in. And I was able to watch some NBA. You know, I generally don't do NBA until we get to the end of the NFL season. Usually Christmas is the signal point for me to start turning my attention to the association. But since there was NFL football on Christmas this year, like really NFL football, I didn't really give it a look-see, you know, but you got my attention. They got my attention now with this blockbuster that we're about to get to. Let's talk about it, man. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Wow. I mean, that is the only way to describe. So let me tell you how, because, you know, when things like this transpire, it's one of those, where were you and how did you react to the news type of moments. Generally, when it's something like this, you think you're being pranked. Okay, somebody hacked an account, or this is a fake account. This isn't real. I didn't have to go through any of that. I was sleeping. And I woke up at like 10:30, 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. My wife was kind enough to let me sleep in while she was up with the kids. So I get up and I look at my phone, and I'm in a group text with the Commanders Kings, Rio, Ed, Rico. And I see Rio and Ed texting in the group text back and forth. And, you know, the first thing that is said is, wow, LUKA to LA is crazy. And I'm like, what is he? You know, I'm still kind of groggy from just getting up. So I'm like, that's crazy. Am I dreaming or something? This isn't real. Like, what is he talking about? Now I keep scrolling down and I see, you know, Rio's reaction to what Ed typed in, and Ed types in something else, and then Rio types something else in. And I'm like, why are they talking about this like it really happened? There's no way Luka Doncic is getting traded. You guys are crazy. So, you know, the first thing I have to do is I have to vet now, because that's my thing. I don't trust anybody. DTA, don't trust anybody, as a wise man once told me. So I go straight to the sources, ESPN, Bleacher Report, and I just simply pull down all of my notifications, because if this really happened, everything's full and everything's going bananas. So I pull down my Twitter and it's full. 24 messages, can't get any more. Okay. That's a sign that maybe this did happen. I pull down my ESPN, it's all the way to 18. Like, yeah, that's might have been more, but it was at 2 when I went to sleep. So 18's a bit much for just a few hours, right? 6 or 7 hours, or however long I was sleeping. And then I pulled down Bleacher Report, and that was all the way to 24, and it was full. I was like, okay, yeah, this probably did happen. So I scroll down ESPN looking for the sirens, right? It's got to be breaking news sirens, and I find it, and it says Luka Doncic to the Lakers for AD, and I'm like, this is insane. This is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? And my first thought, and I want to ask you guys this. What was your first thought when you saw that this was an actual trade? And let's get it up on the screen now. What were your initial thoughts when you heard that Luka Doncic, at 25 years young, one of the faces and superstars of the National Basketball Association. We're talking top 3 player in the league right now. Depending on who you ask, he could be 1. He's probably 2 on most people's list. And if he's not 2, he's 3, and he's no lower than 3. Traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers for 31-year-old Anthony Davis. Now, AD is still a top 10 player in the league. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, two-way players in the NBA currently still. And when healthy, there aren't many better in the league. But he is also 31 years old. And he's had a history of injuries. Now, he's been playing through those injuries, and he's been a lot healthier here of late. And maybe some credit needs to go to LeBron James, and maybe even some credit needs to go to Darvin Ham for that. But whatever the case may be, we know the injury history of an Anthony Davis. And we know that with age, that doesn't get any better. But I must say, when I first heard the trade, I was like in utter disbelief and shock like everyone else. But after that shock wore off, like after I looked at the trade and I looked at what had been done here, and I was like, what did you just do, Nico Harrison? What did you just do? The first thing I thought of was, well, this makes sense for the Lakers, right? You get your superstar. The NBA is better when the Lakers have a superstar player. The Lakers can't function. I just remember after Kobe retired, the Lakers just wandering through the NBA stratosphere, starless. Now, they had young, talented players, but none of them were stars. And so LA was just existing on the NBA radar, and that's not how this is supposed to work. The Lakers need a superstar. And they didn't have one for a very long time after Kobe retired, until LeBron showed up. And this is going to ensure that they have a superstar in LA for the next decade plus, potentially. So that was my first thought. And then I turned and I looked at the Mavericks situation, and I'm like, there's got to be more to this story. It can't just be we woke up one morning and decided we wanted to trade the best player, second best player, third best player in the NBA and a global superstar in Luka Doncic. We just didn't wake up one morning and decide that that's what we wanted to do. Trade the face of our franchise and one of the faces of the NBA right now. Don't think that's how this works. There has to be something going on. And then just looking at the trade at face value and thinking about what was done here, I pretty much posed the question. Luka to LA and AD to the Mavs is fill in the blank. You fill in that blank. I'll tell you what my answer is here in a second. Let's go through this trade, though. Three-way trade, no one, talks about the Jazz in this trade because why? Nobody cares about the Jazz in this trade. They were just a mere facilitator, right? They were a connecting piece here to make the money work, to make everything work. But this is really the Lakers and the Mavs, right? Lakers receive Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. Kleber and Morris, along with Doncic, all coming from Dallas. Mavericks receive Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and LA's 2029 first round pick. That is significant because the Lakers really don't have many assets left. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I said that, the Lakers are screwed short term. And he's like, they're not done yet. They're going to go out and get a big. They're going to go get Valanciunas, or they're going to get Vucevic, or they're going to go get your boy in Atlanta, who's currently on the bench, and Clint Capella. And I said, with what? What assets do they have? What I think all they have left is a 2031 first round pick. Like, what do they have left? They have nothing. They have no rim protection now. There's only one basketball in LA, which leads people to believe that LeBron may want out. And I don't necessarily think I agree with that. But we'll talk about that later. Like I said, there's a lot of layers to peel back. So they get Anthony Davis and Max Christie, who's a solid piece, and LA's 2029 first round pick. Could prove to be something, could prove to be nothing. Jazz received Jalen Hood Scafino, Clippers 2025 second round pick, Dallas 2025 second round pick. So again, they really were just a mere connector piece here in this trade. But I asked you a question. Luka to LA and AD to the Mavs is what? After the dust settled and the smoke cleared, and I'm talking 15 minutes after I kind of had a chance to process what had transpired, I said, this is a good trade for both sides. I know that might not be a popular opinion and take here. It's a good trade for both sides. I'll explain here in a second. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and then you can answer and you can tell me how you feel. And we'll get to our next segment of the show in a second, and we can get into your comments and how you feel about a lot of this. So I say it's good for both sides for this reason. For Dallas, it's good in the short term. You get Anthony Davis, Nico Harrison. This is what he said. They had a dilemma coming to them in the offseason. Luka was up for a super max deal that was going to be along the lines of 5 years, $345 million, which they were perfectly fine paying if they trusted that he was all in, meaning he was going to take care of his body. They had concerns about him eating and not being in shape. He had gotten up to as high as 270 at one point this year. He had been playing around 260, which is a little bit heavier than they would like him to. He's always been a chunky guy, right? He's never been like in tremendous shape. You probably got to go back to young Luka when he first got in the NBA. But over the last, I'd say 2, maybe 3 years, Luka's been chunky, which I don't think they're massive fans of. But his stocky build is actually a part of his game that makes him almost unguardable, because it's that physicality, that size that he has, the extra weight that allows him to bully smaller defenders they try to put bigger defenders on him and he's still able to get to the rim at his own leisurely pace. But they're just not sure if he's committed. Does he love basketball? Does he love the things that have to go into being a great player year in, year out? They question that. He's also not a great defensive player. Again, these are not reasons, not the defensive part. That's not a good enough reason to trade a guy away that is the face of not only, his team, but the NBA. That's not, just because you don't play defense, that's not a good enough reason. They weren't sure how invested he was. And I remember at one point, LUKA had threatened, as stars tend to do in the NBA when they're not sure how committed a franchise is to winning. He had threatened them at one point, like, hey, if you guys aren't serious, then I may have to explore other options type of deal. And that's what prompted them to be aggressive in going after Kyrie Irving. And, they got close to winning the chip. And so they went out and they signed Clay in the offseason. And so, they had put forth the effort to show him we're trying to win here. I don't know if they felt like that effort was reciprocated on his end from a staying in shape standpoint. I think they feel like, the injury that he sustained this year, some of that was based off of him being out of shape, almost like a Zion Williamson type situation. And if you don't think Zion Williamson and his issues in New Orleans played a factor in this, you're sadly mistaken, because teams, they take note of those types of things, right? But it's levels to this shit, and Luka's already proven that he's one of the best to ever do it. Like, this is a guy that on his career almost averages 30 points a game. Like, that's crazy talk. This is an all NBA player multiple times over, multiple time all-star, like all-star every year. Like, again, it's levels to this shit. Same could be said for Anthony Davis, though. And Anthony Davis does bring size. Pause. He does bring elite defensive prowess. He does bring similar traits to the party that LUKA does, in the sense of being an all NBA player. He does it though, all NBA defensive team, all NBA, all first team, all NBA. You're talking about a guy that multiple time all-star, multiple time all NBA player. And despite being 31 years old, he's going to continue to be a presence, is Anthony Davis. I bring this up because Anthony Davis talked about this in LA. He wanted to go back to playing the 4. He wanted the Lakers to acquire a big because he wanted to go back to playing the 4. He's going to get that opportunity in Dallas. Nico Harrison cited the success in Cleveland with I hate calling it the Twin Towers because that's old. It's outdated. It's antiquated. The Twin Towers was first used probably with Ralph Sampson and Akeem Olajuwon. Like, that's what, 83, maybe 84. Like, what are we doing? Like, we got to come up with a different, saying for a team with 2 7-footers or 2 guys that have, size down low. We got to come up with something better than that, something more modern. But Cleveland obviously has Mobley and Jared Allen, and that size and rebounding and shot altering. We see where Cleveland is right now. They're the best team in basketball right now, along with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And so he's kind of trying to mimic that a bit. I said to my buddy, and I told him, I think this is good on both sides. And he said, how could you feel this way? I said, one is short term, the other is long term. I could see the Mavericks. He said, all right, so he posed a scenario to me. He said, okay, since you feel that way, if the Mavericks win a championship within the next 5 years, Did they win this trade? And I said it depends. Did the Lakers win a championship in that, over the life of Luka's career? If the answer is no, what are we talking about? Isn't the goal to win an NBA championship? Isn't that the goal? So if the nucleus of Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and that core group that's left there, and they may trade Daniel Gafford, they may hold on to him because Derek Lively has an injury right now, and so if he wants to play the 4, you can't trade, because at one point I think they were thinking about moving Daniel Gafford, because now you don't really necessarily need 3 bigs per se, but if you want to keep him at the 4, but even Nico Harrison said he's probably going to end games playing the 5, which we get. That's generally how teams operate. Down the stretch of games, you want your 5 best guys on the court. And so AD would probably move to the 5, and it'll give you your best, most effective and efficient lineup. But PJ Washington, all of those guys would probably be on the court all at the same time. I would assume it would be AD, Klay, PJ Washington. PJ probably be playing the 4 at that point. Klay would be at the 3, and I'm trying to think of who would be the 2 for them. I know they got another dude there, and I'm missing who it is. And he might be the 3 and Klay might be the 2, but either way, and then of course Kyrie, and that's probably how they're gonna close games out. But I could see them being in a position to compete at a high level in the West and having a shot. Now, is it gonna work? I don't know. Only one way to find out. And AD's got to stay healthy, and Kyrie's got to stay healthy. Like, not having Luka removes any margin of error that might have existed with this Mavericks team. Luka was such a difference maker that having him gave you a little leeway for maybe this guy or that guy not having a good night or not playing at all because of an injury. You don't have that now. You need all your guys, all hands on deck in order for this Dallas team to be effective. But that said, if it does happen and they do win a championship in the next 5 years, because it's got to be in this window while guys are still effective, while Klay is still effective, while AD is still effective, while Kyrie is still effective. It's got to be in this window. And the Lakers never win a championship with Luka. Who wins the trade? Sure, Luka's going to be there for a lot longer, and as long as Luka is there, the window is open for the Lakers. I'm aware. But if you never win anything, what difference does it make? Long term, the Lakers win this deal. Hands down. That's no debate. There's no question about that. You're getting a NBA superstar. You just don't see this type of thing. Not even, he's a megastar, not a superstar, a megastar in the prime of his career. Now, again, assuming that Luka is Luka, why wouldn't we? Right? Why wouldn't we assume that Luka, and we're hearing reports that Luka could be ready to return as early as this weekend. Right? There were some thoughts that, it'd be a while before he sees the court. Bullshit. They're talking about him potentially seeing the court this weekend. And now he's going to have something to prove. If he wasn't motivated in Dallas, he sure is motivated now. Because essentially, the Mavs gave up on him. So you just traded a pissed off Luka to the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, again, Lakers aren't doing shit this year. Because Luka don't play a lick of defense, and they have 0 rim protection at this current juncture. So they're screwed. Absolutely screwed this season. And that's what prompted people to say, does LeBron want to get out and have a shot to win? We'll have that conversation here in a bit. But long term, the Lakers win this thing hands down, because you're getting Luka Doncic for the next decade plus. And LA can't function without a superstar. Well, they're getting a mega star, the likes of a LeBron James in the form of Luka Doncic. So without question, long term, they win this deal. Short term, it's the Mavericks. And they didn't want to pay that money. And now, it kind of benefits the Lakers because now Luka's not eligible for the Supermax since he's been traded. So they don't have to pay him that exorbitant contract either. So it kind of works out for the Lakers in that regard. And it's crazy because other teams are like, bro, all you gave up. And it feels like the Lakers always are the beneficiary of these types of deals. The only one they ever got shafted on was when the Lakers were trying to trade for Chris Paul and David Stern vetoed the trade. Thank God for David Stern. May he rest in peace. But it seems like these deals always work in the favor of the Lakers, if you ask me. A couple of years ago, they got every single guy you could imagine, and they gave up next to nothing to do it. And they ended up in the Western Conference Finals. They reshaped their entire roster right before the trade deadline, and nobody said a word. It's like, hey, how are they getting all these pieces? How are you ended up with Jarrett Vanderbilt and all these other guys, and you gave up next to nothing to get them? They gave up Anthony Davis, not that he's a slouch. We're talking about a top 10 NBA player, probably the best two-way player in the NBA right now. And you're talking about one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in the NBA, and a perennial scorer when motivated and locked in, a double-double machine, guy that alters games, fills up the stat sheet, bona fide stud in Anthony Davis. And we're not talking about minced meat over here, but Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick is all you had to give up to get Luka Doncic? What? Like, wait a minute. What? And other teams around the league are like, come on, bro. I could have gave you more than that if you wanted to give up Luka Doncic. I would have given you everything. Giving up my whole roster and all the picks. But Nico Harrison said he wanted Anthony Davis. He approached them. The Lakers didn't call him and ask, was Luka Doncic available? He approached the Lakers and said, hey, what you think about us trading you Luka? And they was like, wait, what? You said, wait, what'd you say? Because I thought you said Luka Doncic. He's like, I did. Okay, I mean, what do you need? This is wild. But I don't think that the Mavericks got fleeced the way that everybody thinks they did. Long term, yes, obviously. Okay. Luka's 25, AD's 31, has an injury history, et cetera, et cetera. I'm aware of all of those things. Yeah, I get it. But if we're talking about here and now, the Mavericks have a better shot at winning the title the next, let's call it 3 years. It's a small window. More so than the Lakers do. The Lakers just have a bunch of stuff right now. Don't even know if LeBron's going to be a part of the foreseeable future. Obviously, how many years does LeBron have left? 2, maybe? I mean, he doesn't have to retire, but you get to a point when you're, when you've been the best player in the world for a long time, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can't do some of the things that I used to do consistently. It's time to go. Tom Brady didn't have to hang up his cleats. He could have kept playing. He was still better than 2/3 of the quarterbacks in the NFL, probably 3/4 of the quarterbacks in the NFL when he retired. He didn't have to retire. He just chose to because he didn't feel like he could be Tom Brady, the Tom Brady he knew anymore. And generally, that's what you see from the greatest of the greats. They don't have to retire. They just do. Like Jordan could have kept playing if he wanted to, but why? Like I can't do some of the things that I used to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and hang it up. LeBron can keep playing if he wants to, but at some point he's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to let the young boys have it. But there's a discussion right now going on as to whether LeBron stays in LA, whether he waives his no trade clause to go to one or two different destinations. I think there's only one place he would waive his no trade clause to go to, and that's Golden State. However, I don't think LeBron is looking to go anywhere else. You know, he's got his son on the roster with him. It's kind of how he envisioned his career ending, you know, playing with his son. And LA is home. He does a lot of things based out of being in LA. And he's an executive producer. He's got his hand in a million different pots. I don't think he planned on ever leaving LA. This was the last stop. This was how it was planned and how it was supposed to go down. So I don't know if LeBron is like in the, you know, mode of I got to win another title on my way out. I don't know if that's his primary goal. Yeah, he would like to win, but he would also like it to be in LA. And I don't think that's going to happen now. And he may be okay with that. You know, there's been rumors because everything's so fresh that, oh, LeBron is happy with the trade and he's eager to play with LUKA. And I'm just like, yeah, nah, I'm not really seeing, like, this reminds me of when they got Russell Westbrook. And I was like, anybody that knows ball knows this shit isn't going to work. And anybody that knows basketball knows that both Luka Doncic and LeBron James are ball dominant. Now, LeBron can survive without the ball in his hands, but he's not a cutter. He's not a slasher. He really never was, but especially at this age and stage of his career, he's definitely not. He needs the ball in his hands to be effective. Luka, we know, is, you know, on par with James Harden in terms of a guy that will dribble out the entire shot clock and then he'll throw you a hot potato with 2 seconds left. He'll throw you a bomb with 2 seconds left on the shot clock and say, do something with that. I don't know how this works consistently. So it reminds me a little of Dame and Giannis, where you're like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, Giannis needs the ball in his hand. Dame needs the ball in his hand. And it still really hasn't clicked in Milwaukee, and I don't know if it will. Then you add that Dame doesn't play defense. It makes it that much tougher. Same thing here, right? Luka's not going to be playing great defense. So you need rim protection. And last time I checked, you just traded the rim protection that you had. So what are you going to do? Ask Jarrett Vanderbilt to start blocking shots? I guess. Yeah. So the Lakers are dead this year. Dead, I tell you. Unless, like my buddy said, there's another move to be made. And they got assets from a player standpoint. You could trade Austin Reeves. Again, you don't want to get rid of too much shooting, right? They could trade Dalton Connect, but again, be careful here, right? You don't want to get away from, you know, the core of what you're trying to build. Don't want to give up too much, right? They got to figure some shit out though, because they don't have any draft picks anytime soon. And the assets that they do have, you know, you kind of want to hold on to some of them. You just traded away Max Christie. So don't want to keep trading away stuff. I think it's an interesting deal, to say the least. Obviously, it's head scratching from the Mavericks standpoint, just because we've never seen a player of the caliber of a Luka Doncic traded in the prime of his career like this. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see this again. And this was done so quietly. Where's Woj when you need him? Would this have been reported sooner if Woj was around? Is Shams not able to get the scoop here? This was done hush hush. Like this kind of mega deal, and nobody had an inkling. They said that this thing had been bubbling under the surface for a month, but the whole LUKA AD piece started 3 weeks ago, and nobody had a clue. They said even LeBron and AD didn't know about this. Jason Kidd looked flummoxed. I don't know if you watched the press conference or not. Jason Kidd looked flummoxed. He still looked stunned at the press conference. He didn't know what the hell was going on. Obviously, LUKA didn't know. He was blindsided. So, I mean, that's some wild stuff. Anyway, wow. 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 I'm still like, it's like the sound from this trade is still reverberating around the entire sports world. It's not just the NBA. It's not like, it's still stunning. Like DJs at clubs were reporting this trade. That's how big of a deal it was. Could you imagine just being in the club, DJs playing some Kendrick, right? Turn the TV off, and then he just stops the music. Hey, this just in. Luka Doncic has been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. And everybody's like, oh shit. Like, could you imagine being in the club and the DJ does that? That's wild. But that's what was happening. I'm watching games in progress. Like the Blazers were playing the Suns, and the Blazers players on the bench are kirking out. Like they're up like 20 over the Suns. And one of the Suns players goes over and tells the dude, like, yo, Luka just got traded to the Lakers, bro. And they're like, man, stop bullshit. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm serious. And they all like little teenage girls over there giggling and shit. And they like wide-eyed, and they go tell another person, and they go tell another person. And shit was crazy, bro. You would have never expected this. Not Luka Doncic. Like Giannis has been threatening the Bucks, it feels like, since they won a championship. He's been threatening the Bucks every year. Like, look, if y'all don't do something, I might have to get out of here. So you can see if the Bucks finally said, all right, man, enough of you threatening us. Let's get something for his ass and move on. This is not what that has been. This shit just came out of nowhere. Nico Harrison is a Nike guy. He's friends with AD. He's only been a general manager for 4 years now. Under his leadership, the Mavs have made it to the finals, conference finals. He's been wildly successful. This is a legacy-defining move. If they win a championship, he's a made man. If they lose and Luka goes on to win 3 or 4 championships with the Lakers, he will go down as the biggest GOAT, not greatest of all time. He will be the biggest scapegoat. He will be the worst GM, and this will be the worst move ever made in sports history. He will be crucified. He will become a trivia question. He will be the punchline for jokes if this does not work. Scared money don't make money. We're going to find out what side he's on in the next 3 to 5 years. We'll find out, because, again, the only way this works out for Dallas is if they win a championship. That's the only way. If Luka goes on and wins 4 championships with the Lakers and the Mavs only win 1, they got the one that they were seeking. This isn't a long-term move. Like he said, we did this for the short term and the long term. Bullshit. You did it for the short term. There's no long-term ramifications here that benefits you, other than you're not paying Luka Doncic $345 million. That's the only long-term benefit that comes from this trade for you. On the court, there's no benefit. AD isn't going to be of any use to you in 7 years from now, whereas Luka would have been still in the prime of his career at the age of 32. AD might not be of any use to you 4 years from now, let alone 7. That 2029 Lakers first round draft pick, that ain't shit. That's not a good investment. If Luka does what he's supposed to do, if the Lakers put pieces around him, they should be good in 2029. That's not a great pick to have. Don't know the attachments to it, if it's lottery protected, if it's this protected, if it's that, if they can keep pushing it and kicking the can down the road. I don't know all the specifics, but if it's just the Lakers 2029 first round pick, that's it. Fully unprotected. They might end up with the 25th pick that year. Good for you. Yay. Got a second first round pick. Awesome. So there's no long-term benefit for the Mavs here. Anyway, I digress. Let's look at the other trade that took place before we get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. So, De'Aaron Fox, Zach LaVine has been getting traded from Chicago for 2 years now. So I'm glad he's finally gotten some closure to his situation, because the Bulls have been dangling this man out here in the wind, in the windy city. He's just been blowing in the wind for the last 2 years, waiting for somebody to come and scoop him up. And finally, and I'm looking at what the Bulls got in this trade, and I'm like, so you waited to trade Zach LaVine this entire time, and that is all you got? Your own pick back from San Antonio, your own, which, look, they're probably going to be a lottery team. They wanted their pick back, but your own pick in 2025. And I guess when you consider what's available, this is actually going to be a pretty good draft at the top, at least. You know, this is one of those drafts where you want to have the number 1 or even the number 2 pick. And it's worth it to have your own pick back and have a lottery ball, right? So I guess I get that from the standpoint of, hey, we got a shot at Cooper, Flag, or, any of the other young guys that are really good in college basketball right now. So I get that. But Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins, really? I mean, obviously the core of that deal for the Bulls is getting their own pick back from San Antonio, which I feel some type of way that all you did was net your own pick that you gave away probably years ago. You got it back. Anyhow, De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin are both San Antonio Spurs. Kings get Zach LaVine, CD Sesco, 3 first-round picks, 2025 Charlotte pick, 2027 Spurs pick, 2031 Minnesota pick, and 3 second-rounders, 2025 Chicago, 2028 Denver, and their own 2028 pick back. So Kings get a bona fide score in Zach LaVine. He can fill it up. Spurs get their first real major piece around Wemby. So now you continue to build. Now it's De'Aaron Fox, and the assumption is he's going to sign an extension. You don't give up what they gave up, and they didn't give up the biggest pick, which was the Hawks pick that they still have. So they really didn't give up much, to be honest with you, to get De'Aaron Fox. And you still have a ton of assets, and now you continue to build. That's piece 1 around Wemby. They like, I wonder what this does for Stephon Castle, because when he was drafted, he was adamant, I'm a point guard. I'm a point guard. And I mean, De'Aaron Fox can play off the ball as a 2 guard. I mean, that's primarily what he did in Sacramento, but I'm guessing he's going to be ball dominant in San Antonio and setting the offense, setting the table. Ball's going to be in his hands a ton. But no matter what they decide and how they decide to do it, Castle can move around. He's a big guard. So Castle, Fox, and Wemby is your nucleus right now. And you just continue to build from there, right? See how Zach LaVine fits in Sacramento. They're kind of reshuffling the deck. This is just a weird year for the Kings. It felt like they had something really good going, and then all of a sudden they fire Mike Brown, they trade De'Aaron Fox, and it's just like, okay, you're back to being the Kings again. You're back in no man's land, kind of just slodging and, walking through the NBA wilderness again. Directionless. And then the Bulls they're just the Bulls. Like, I mean, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is a win for the Spurs, if you ask me. They came out the winners here because they didn't have to give up the Hawks pick. That was the bell. That should have been the eye of everyone's desire, right? That should have been the thing that you're like, yo, I gotta have that one. Gotta have the Hawks unprotected pick, bro. And they didn't have to give it up. Like, they got De'Aaron Fox. Like, that's wild. Like, of the players that moved in this trade, they didn't have a major piece. So they needed to come to the table with a credible draft pick. And all they had to give up was give the Bulls back their pick in 2025. That's incredible to me. Like, we're talking De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine. These are some heavy hitters. Like, if we weren't talking about LUKA for AD, this is a blockbuster. This was what a blockbuster deal used to look like. Okay, you're talking about 2 all-star caliber players, 2 household names to NBA fans in De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine in a trade. And all San Antonio had to give up was Zach Collins, Trey Jones, some second round, a first rounder in 2027, and a 2025 pick from the Bulls that they just gave back to them. That's insane. But that's a win if you're the Spurs. That's a win, is what that is. That's what we call in the business. We call that a dub. And now I'm actually anxious to see what that looks like as they continue to try to put pieces around Wemby and turn that thing around. And De'Aaron wanted, I mean, this is what happens when you get a guy like Wemby. You get other players wanting to go there. He wanted to go to San Antonio. When's the last time you heard somebody say, hey, I want to go to the Spurs? Not since the days of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker had you heard a player say, yeah, I want to go to San Antonio. Yeah, you wanted to go to San Antonio if you wanted your career to die. Sure, go to San Antonio. Now people want to go to San Antonio. De'Aaron Fox is the first of probably many to come. SWIPA, no swiping. So now that we've talked about that, I want to see what you guys have to say. So let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. Super chats are the best way to get that done. That allows your comment to be read on the air and reacted to, and allows you to jump straight to the front of the line as well. However, if you want your comment to be read, time permitting, and it is pertinent, can't guarantee you that time will permit, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. And we'll see if we can get to it. All right. I do want to say this. With Myles Garrett requesting a trade, we had a show earlier where we talked about what the compensation would look like. And I've, been interested to see, because the one thing I've always said as fans, we never get right is the compensation for players. We always think it's going to take this grandiose deal to get it done. And then what ultimately happens is we go, that's it? That's all it took? So I did the knee-jerk reaction. It's going to take 3 first rounds thing. But I walked that back quickly when I realized he was 29 years old. Because I was thinking, oh, he's like 26. Then I was like, wait, you're tripping, bro. He had to come in the league a lot, sooner than that. Like, then I had to go do the math. I'm like, okay, he wasn't in the 15. I always start at 15 because there's not many players left, from the draft before 2015. Not any good ones, at least. Not any good players. So I'm like, okay, let's start doing the math here. He wasn't the 2015 draft. That was Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. He wasn't the 2016 draft. That was Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. I was like, he had to be the 2017 draft, which he was. So I'm like, okay, there's no way he's 26. I started doing the numbers and I was like, okay, now let me just look at my phone. Now I had to check, saw that he was 29. He just turned 29 in December. So that changes how much you would have to give up for him, right? I still think it's 2 ones. And a anonymous GM reached out to Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Browns. And he said, everyone's going to have the crazy. He said, I'm waiting for the crazy fans out there to say, it's going to take 3 ones. He's like, no way. Absolutely not. He said it'll take a 1, a 2, and probably like a 4. Right. And I'm like, nah, I ain't buying that shit. Then somebody else, another NFL insider, spoke with another anonymous executive who said, oh, it's 2 ones easy, and probably then some, right? That's more along the lines of what I'm thinking. And then Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns, is on record. He actually said, and you can put that on the record. So he's literally on record as saying, someone asked him, if a team offered you 2 first-round picks, you still wouldn't trade Myles Garrett. He said, no, absolutely not. And you could put that on the record. So he already said, 2's not enough to get me to move. I'm not even entertaining it. And even if somebody offered me 2 ones, I'm not doing it. So the hell makes you think a 1 and a 2 is going to get the shit done? That's preposterous. You don't want him then, if that's all you're willing to give up. Because trust me, just like all the other teams in the NBA are pissed off that they weren't made aware that Luka Doncic was available, because they would have given way more up than what the Lakers gave up. Not that you had an Anthony Davis, which is what Nico Harrison was interested in, but there were teams that would have tried to give them everything they had to get Luka Doncic. And they're like, oh, that's some bullshit. You didn't even give us a shot. Knowing that Myles Garrett could be available, teams would start lining up and it would become a bidding war. There's no way, unless Cleveland decided we're going to just trade him to this team and we'll just take what they're giving us, which is stupid. If you're going to give away a guy like Myles Garrett, you got to get the most you can for him. And you got to do it in a way that's going to allow you to maximize who he is and also keep him away from you at the same time. So I doubt that he'd be traded to an AFC opponent, right? It feels like you'd be essentially deciding between the NFC teams. But also, I don't know if you guys saw that Cooper Kupp was told by the Rams. Remember, he was on the block initially, and then they beat the Vikings on that Thursday night, and he got pulled off the trading block. And they was like, you know what? Maybe we can make a run. And they did. And they ultimately, won their division, got a home playoff game, won that, and took the Eagles to the brink. So it worked out for them. But now they've gotten to the offseason. And I told y'all, man, Cooper Kupp is really being phased out of that offense. That offense is built solely around Puka Nacua. Like, you could tell he would get 14 targets and Cooper Kupp might get 4. Kupp's still effective. Did you know that Cooper Kupp, in his 9 NFL seasons, I believe he's got 9 NFL seasons, if not 9, 8. One of the two. Let's see. I think Cooper Kupp's first year was 2017. So let's see. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I think he was 2017. He might be 16. Let's see. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I think he was 17. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, 8 years. I think he's 17. I think he's had 8 seasons. Did you know Cooper Kupp only has 2,000-yard receiving seasons? I bet you wouldn't have guessed that. A lot of you wouldn't have. For as much attention as Cooper Kupp gets, and as much as people, give him like respect for being one of the better receivers in the league, he had that one season. Hit that one season in 2021 when he was the Triple Crown winner. Most touchdowns, most receiving yards, most catches. He went off. But outside of that, he's got one other season where he's got 1,000 yards. That's it. And he doesn't have a game that ages particularly well. He was never the fastest guy. He was in an offense that was very friendly to his skill set. He's not going to separate. He's going to have to win with size and, his ability to, catch the football in traffic. I don't know about him. He's available. I don't think it'll take a whole hell of a lot to get him either at this point, but I don't know about him. I know Commanders fans are already at me. Hey, did you see this, Louie? Of course I saw it. Of course I did. I don't know if I'm interested, though. Again, I think I'm going to pass. Thanks. Let them go to the Chargers or some shit like that. Let them go to the Raiders. Let them stay out on the left coast. I think I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. Anyhow, let's get to your comments. See what you guys have to say. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JP writes, I'm so excited for Luka in LA, and we didn't give up a haul for him. Our long-term future after LeBron, which looked bleak, is secure. Mavs are idiots. I don't understand. Like, I understand why they did what they did, like from a contractual situation, and maybe you didn't trust him to stay in shape, and didn't know how dedicated he was, this, that, and the third. But it's still hard to wrap my brain around the fact that they gave up, a top 3 player in the NBA, probably top 2 player in the NBA. Like, after Joker, how is he not the next best player in the league? So again, maybe I don't know. Maybe you think it might be SGA, maybe it's Giannis. Like, it's a small group that he's a part of. So I'm just floored. I'm flummoxed at how they gave him up and they only got what they got. Like, they didn't get much. Anthony Davis does not equal Luka Doncic. Anthony Davis plus a first round pick in 2029 does not equal Luka Doncic. So again, that's the part that is a little bit hard for me to kind of like stomach. Is like I get all of the things that they question. I get the money situation. I get all of that. I understand from that standpoint why they did what they did. I'm just like, wow, really? Huh. And to your point, LA's future is now secure, right? Because after LeBron retired, it was Dunsky for you guys. You guys were screwed. And now you're not. Just like that. Now you're not. Now you are not. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, Lou, I was on the phone with my boy talking football. I saw the tweet hit my phone and I told him he thought Shams was hacked. Ish is still crazy. I think most people that saw it when it first happened thought Shams was hacked. A lot of people thought it was NBA Centel because he be having the craziest shit on his page. And this seems like an NBA Centel type, trade, right? Some shit he would put up on his X account. But you'd be like, man, fuck out of here with that bullshit. Unbelievable. When I first saw it, I didn't believe it. When I saw Rio and Ed texting about it, I'm like, the hell they talking about? Then I thought I was dreaming. I was like, yo, do I need to wake up? Are my eyes deceiving me? This can't be real. And then, like, could you imagine being a Mavs fan waking up to that shit? Like, wait, what? We did what? We did what? Yo, unreal. That's crazy. My boy was like, yo, this shit doesn't make any sense to me. I tried to make it make sense for him, and he was just like, bro, none of that shit you talking makes any sense to me. He's like, even if they win a championship in the next 5 years, it still doesn't make it a good trade. And I'm like, but if the Lakers don't win a championship, then what are we saying? Like, that's the whole goal of any of this shit, is to win a chip. And if they can get a chip, then it was worth it. Because there's no guarantee you were going to win a championship with Luka Doncic. Now, there's no guarantee you're going to win one here with AD either. This is the way that he thinks is the best way for them to go about it without having to spend $345 million over 5 years. But again, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but sheesh. If you're going to do it, at least get more for him. My goodness. That's the part that I'm kind of still baffled by. Is like, that's all you got? You just gave up Luka effing Doncic, and that's all you got in return? That's wild. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, C. Mac, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, hey, Lou, what's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. 2 questions. How do you see the Suns' offense working if Butler is traded there with Durant and Booker, and why? 2, who do you see as the biggest threat to the Thunder in the Western Conference, and why? That is a great question about the Suns, because I was talking to my boy, and he's a Suns fan. And he's still hurting over the fact that they blew up the young nucleus that they had to get KD. He never wanted KD in the first place. That team went to the finals with Mikal Bridges and what's my man in New York, Brooklyn, that everybody wants to trade for? Sheesh. The shooter. Why can't I think of his name? But yeah, him. Now, they weren't going to win anything with DeAndre Ayton. They weren't going to win anything with him. They were going to have to find a different big. But the way that team was constructed, all they needed was a better big and a point guard. And yeah, Chris Paul was there, but they weren't going to win shit with him either. So they had the squad though. They had a solid bench. They had campaign at that time. They had stuff to work with, and then they blew it all up in the name of chasing after KD, and they're screwed. Now, I will say they gave themselves a lot of flexibility by, and my buddy was trying to explain to me the logic behind them trading away their 2031 first round pick for 3 first round picks. And I'm like, what in the hell is Danny Ainge doing? Anyway, but he was trying to explain to me that he's stockpiling picks for 2031 and Danny Ainge is a genius. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Jazz have a bunch of picks anyway. And they got a bunch of assets if they want to acquire more picks. So, and Danny Ainge, one thing I can say about Danny Ainge is he knows how to build some shit. So he did it in Boston. He can do it again. And that's what they're banking on in with the Jazz. But they got 3 first round picks when they were almost the Lakers out of assets. And then magically they flipped 1 pick for 3 first round picks. So they're back in the game now. But the biggest issue that I see with them is the same issue that I would see if they got Jimmy Butler now. Butler is an upgrade over Bradley Beal. He's an upgrade over Bradley Beal. But I told my buddy Cam Johnson, thank you, Game Bomber 1 TV2, Cam Johnson. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but they had a nice little nucleus with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Devin Booker, Ayton, even though I thought they had to replace him in order to win. That Chris Paul, they had campaign off the bench. They were solid. At that time, they had a solid group. And I didn't think they needed to do what they ultimately did. But they did it anyway. Trading for Bradley Beal was a mistake. They were just doing shit just to do it at that time. And my problem with trading for Bradley Beal was that you had carbon copies. You had 3 dudes that do the same shit. Like KD can shoot threes, but he's a mid-range assassin. That's his thing, right? Well, Bradley Beal is the same thing. Bradley Beal can shoot threes. He's not a three-point shooter. A Wizards fan would tell you that. Bradley Beal is a mid-range assassin. Well, in this iteration of the NBA, where you either shoot a 3 or you get it to the damn rim, right? It's either a dunk or a 3. The mid-range is obsolete. Now, in the playoffs, the mid-range is everything, right? Because teams aren't letting you get to the rim like you can in the regular season. And if you want to live by the 3, go right ahead. But they're going to make it tougher on you to get those 3s off, right? So that mid-range is everything in the playoffs. But regular season, I don't need 3 dudes doing the same thing. And Beal, Book, and Durant are all mid-range shooters. Book, probably of the 3, is the best 3-point shooter. And even his 3-point shooting hasn't been great because he used to be a volume shooter in Phoenix because he had to do the bulk of the shooting. Now he kind of can defer a little bit, but I don't think Book's been hovering around 40 in ages. Last time I checked, he was in that 35, 36 range, which isn't good. It's league average. But Durant isn't a knockdown 3-point shooter. Booker isn't a knockdown 3-point shooter, and neither is Beal. They're all midi assassins. Well, what the hell am I going to do with 3 midi assassins? Oh, by the way, none of them are excellent defenders either. So there's that piece. And then you add Nurk into the situation, and it's like, yeah. And Nurk's fine, but Yeah, it's not good enough. And then he had to find out the hard way that Tyus Jones is not a starting point guard in this league. He's an excellent backup point guard. But he had to find out the hard way that Tyus is not a starter. So anyway, I veered off of the question. If Butler went there, how would I see the offense working? Everything still works through Durant. He's still the main cog. What Jimmy Butler would do is something that they don't currently have, and that's somebody that'll do all the dirty work. Jimmy will cut to the basket. Jimmy will offensive rebound. Jimmy will play defense. He'll get steals. He'll get in the passing lane. Jimmy will do everything else that they don't do. Problem is, Jimmy is a lot like them in the sense that he's a mid-range guy. He's inside the three-point line. Jimmy Butler is not a three-point shooter. So you're getting another guy that doesn't necessarily help you in that regard, but he would bolster their offense from the standpoint of he'd do the dirty work. The stuff that nobody else wants to do in terms of getting their hands dirty, he would be able to do. And he would also, and this is something that they desperately need in Phoenix, more so than anything on the court, mentally, he would give them a different edge. I think they lack KI in Phoenix right now. Jimmy's a dog. And you put Jimmy on that team, and that shit is contagious. He'd push those dudes and get them to play a lot better. They don't have the depth. When you trade what you traded to get KD and you put yourself in the financial bind that they're currently in, it just makes it tough on you to be able to surround your team with the core guys with talent around. They just don't have it. Like, they're relying on Ryan Dunn, a rookie, that they drafted late in the first round, and it's a bunch of guys where you're like, yeah, he shouldn't be playing as many minutes as he's playing. And then they got some other dudes where you're just like, yeah, that's cool, but it ain't cool, So Jimmy would help for sure. He'd be better than Bradley Beal, I can tell you that right now. Is that a team that, and Nurk, obviously he and Budenholzer aren't getting along. He's now on the bench. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess right now in Phoenix. Biggest threat to the West, to the Thunder in the West. I don't know if there is one, but I'm biased, so I'm going to say it's my Grizzlies. It's tough because they're so good. But I think we can run them boys. They beat the brakes off of us, but nobody played in the game, right? It was no Desmond Bane, no John Morant. I think it might have been just Jaren Jackson Jr. in that game by himself. They beat us by a gajillion. But we're getting healthy, right? Finally. And at some point, we're going to hopefully stay healthy and then establish a rotation. And look, nobody's deeper in the NBA than us. I'd take my 15-man roster over anybody else's 15-man roster. Like, if you want to go 12 deep, you're not deeper than my 12. The problem is you get to the playoffs, don't nobody give a damn about your depth because it's your 8 against my 8, your best 7 or 8 against my best 7 or 8. And that's where they probably have the edge. And unless we can get our shit together and play cohesively as one, we still don't know what the hell we can even do if we keep Marcus Smart, and he's still a trade asset at this point. But if we decide, we don't even know what this shit looks like because he has barely played since we got him from Boston. And when he's healthy, Ja isn't healthy. When Ja's healthy, Marcus isn't healthy. When Ja and Marcus is healthy, then somebody else is out. We haven't seen what everybody looks like with Gigi coming off the bench, with Vince Williams Jr., because they've been hurt. So we just got GG back. Vince Williams Jr. is scheduled to be back here probably in the next week or two. And then we can kind of assess where we are. But we got bigs, right? We got bigs for days between Edey, Tripp, Brandon Clark. And I mean, even if I have to, some nights I go get Jay Huff off the bench and he can shoot it from deep. So I got bigs for days. I got all the wings you could ask for. The only thing I still lack is consistent shooting. One night you might catch my rookie Jalen Wells, who's one of the best rookies in the league, and he might light you up, go 4 of 6 from deep. He might go 6 of 7 from deep. He's done that before this year. Then he can go over, right? He can be ice cold. Last night against the Bucks, he was bricking every goddamn thing, breaking the damn backboard. But he locking your shit down. Ask Dame how he did last night trying to score the basketball. Between Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jalen Wells, we sick the dogs on his ass. That man went probably like 3 of 12 last night. Non-factor in the game. We play defense over here. We're one of the few teams in the league that are top 7 in both offensive and defensive efficiency rating. So we get after the shit. It's just, can we do enough? Can we be consistent enough? Can we shoot the 3-ball well enough? We score in the paint. We rebound. We play with the fastest pace of any team in the NBA. We are the highest scoring team in the NBA this season. We got all the pieces. We lack playoff experience. And we lack consistency because we're always injured. And our depth is what's keeping us afloat. But in the playoffs, you need your best players to be your best players and to be on the floor and play like your best players. And that's the thing I'm not too sure about right now. But I'll take my guys as the biggest threat to the OKC Thunder in the West. I'll take my guys. JLG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JLG writes, if Cleveland wants a player for Garrett, would you consider trade? Who would you consider trading? I say no, Samerstel, Louie, Terry, and Jaden. Everyone else is on the table. I'd say you're probably right about the guys who are untouchables. That's probably the list right now. It's a short one. There are not many guys that are untouchable on the roster right now. Obviously, we don't have a lot of upper tier talent. So I'd say those are the guys that you named. Same still, Louie, Terry, and Jaden. Probably would say Sam Cosmi, but excuse me. He wasn't the best this year, but he's still damn good. Probably throw him in the mix and say that I wouldn't want to trade him either. And then everybody else would probably be available. I mean, I don't think we would trade Tyler Biotish. I don't think that would be smart for us to do either. But again, we don't have many guys that you go, no. You can't have him. Pretty much the entire roster is available. Yeah. I think you nailed it. I might add in Cosmi and or Biotish, but if they said they wanted one of those two and we can get Myles Garrett, let's say for like I seen a trade package. This shit was wild. This is on some Ricky Williams 99 shit. I saw a trade package where we gave up a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 5. It's like, what? We basically gave up our whole draft. That's insane, bro. Come on, man. That's insane. If you said you got to give me your 1 and 2 this year, and Cosme, obviously he's coming off an injury, they wouldn't say that, but Cosme or Biotish, of course I would do it. So yeah, you can't say they're untouchable and then be willing to trade them, right? So yeah, because I wouldn't throw Samuel Steele, Luvu, Terry, or Jaden in any deal. So yeah, I think you got the 4 guys. Abel Ambrosio, my guy, Double A. Thank you for being a member for 27 months. Says, any potential names you see get traded on Thursday? I think that Jimmy Butler is going to get traded. I think there's a chance that Marcus Smart gets traded from Memphis. I still think our front office is holding out hope that he gets his shit together health-wise, and then his veteran leadership, his experience, his defense, all of these is going to help us tremendously, because he has something that we lack, and that's playoff experience, like playoff grittiness and toughness, and he has it in spades. And his perimeter defense can't be undersold, and we need that too, right? We need that as well. So I don't think, and his versatility, he can probably guard 1 through 3. And, even though he's an undersized guy, he's got the length and the ability to D dudes up and give us that gritty edge that you need, that we lost when Dylan Brooks was moved on from. So I could see them trading Marcus Smart. There's still value in Marcus Smart out there. There are teams that are interested in Marcus Smart, but we may not want to part ways with him. But we got a lot of stuff. At some point, you would think that we might be looking to move on from a few of our pieces that we have, but we got a ton of wings. At some point, you got to, Jake LaRavia, and I mean, it's hard because you don't really want to part ways with any of them. But, at this point, you got to do something, I don't know. We'll see. Between Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and why am I blanking on his name? Jitty. I could that's John Conchar for some of y'all out there who the hell is Jitty? John Conchar. Between those 3, I could see 1 or 2 of them getting traded. I don't know if I see any other big names getting dealt per se. We've heard some rumblings and grumblings of some guys, but the ones that we've been hearing about, like De'Aaron Fox was a big one. He got dealt. Jimmy Butler, that saga, I think it's reached its, wit's end, and something will get done before the trade deadline. There, they can't last the rest of this season with Jimmy Butler. Like, Pat Riley ain't going for that shit. They've suspended this man 8 million times. Jimmy's being petty at this point. We'll talk about Jimmy here in a second, but I can't see that thing, lasting. He's got to get traded. And I think you're going to see some bigs move, man. Like, teams need bigs. And there's some bigs just wasting away on some of these rosters. And like, Utah's probably going to try to move some stuff. I can see Utah being sellers here. I don't think anybody's going to give them what they want for your boy. He's really good. But I think Colin Sexton is somebody they don't mind moving. John Collins is somebody they don't mind moving. I could see them trying to move on from some of their stuff and acquire more assets. Vooch is, the Bulls obviously are sellers with them trading Zach LaVine. and they're currently in the 10th spot in the East. So like that whole play-in thing kind of convolutes things because on one hand, Sacramento just traded away De'Aaron Fox, but they got Zach LaVine back, and they still sitting in the 10 hole. So they're like, we can still make the play-in and have a shot, right? Same thing with the Bulls, right? So they're not totally sellers, but they got back Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and Zach Collins. Like, come on, man. Seriously. So I wish, they could trade Vooch. I could see Valanciunas, again, doesn't make a ton of sense for him to just continue to be there. He could help somebody. I talked about Clint Capella in Atlanta could help somebody as a big. So I could see some bigs moving without question. Cam Johnson, that's another name, good one that we've heard, but I just think the Nets are asking for a lot, and I just don't think they're gonna get what they're asking for. That's the thing is teams want Cam Johnson. I know the Grizzlies want Cam Johnson, but the asking price is so steep that I just don't know if anybody's gonna give them what they're looking for Cam Johnson. So I don't know if he's gonna get traded or not. It like Cam Johnson has been dangled out there for how many years now? It feels like Mikal Bridges. They didn't come down on their price. They got like 8 million first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. So, but they've been dangling Mikal Bridges for like 2 years. They finally got somebody to cough up what they were asking for. I don't know if they're going to get that for Cam Johnson. I don't know if they're going to get what they've been asking for. So, Lauri Markkanen is really good, and Utah already made it abundantly clear. We'll trade him, but you're going to have to give us a gajillion first-round picks, and I just don't see anybody giving up what it's going to take. I don't know if they're trying to move him or if they're trying to build around him, but by the time they're any good, he won't be. So my guess is you can get him, but again, much like Cam Johnson, they're asking for a lot. And I just don't see teams being willing to part ways with what it's going to take to get some of these players. Now, some of the lower end guys, these bigs, some of these role players, a 3-and-D guy that can shoot, teams are always looking for guys like that. I could see some of those dudes moving, but the big names, I don't know. Other than Jimmy Butler, I don't know if you're going to see any big names moved before Thursday. But they're going to be a lot of smaller trades for sure, without question. Like last year, I'll give you an example. The Celtics traded with the Grizzlies for damn it, what's the dude from? Why am I blanking on his name? From Michigan State. I can see his damn face. I don't know why I can't think of his name. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But Walker Kessler, that's a good one too, Sheree. Like I could see Utah is everybody's available in Utah. Everybody's available. And that's another big that teams would be interested in. And he could definitely serve a purpose for some teams. He's a rim protector, a guy that can finish around the rim. It's more so a dunker than anything else, but he'll be a guy much like the rest of these bigs that will garner some attention, but he's a little bit different than a lot of the ones I named, a lot like Vucevic and Jonas Valanciunas. Those are offensive bigs. They're not rim protectors. Walker Kessler is a rim protector. Ingram is a good one. they're ready to move on from him. They've been ready to move on from him. The question is, who's going to step up and give him a deal that, like, again, this is the thing in the NBA. And we talk about the nature of the NBA and all the trades that take place and how much fun it is to talk about these trades. But teams aren't giving away players. This ain't the NFL where you get to a point where you're just like, all right, let me just get what I can get. Nah, they rather hold on to their player and, until the very bitter end and then trade them, like a sign and trade, because those happen in the NBA. Like those rarely happen in the NFL. We saw one with the Chiefs and their cornerback a couple of years ago when he went to Tennessee. Like that was a sign and trade. Those are rare. They franchise tagged him, and I think they ended up trading him to Tennessee for like a 3rd round pick, and then he signed a long-term deal with them. That's rare in the NFL. That is commonplace in the NBA, sign and trade. So I'm not just giving a dude away. I'm not going to do it. If you don't give me what I'm looking for, I'll just hold on to him. So Ingram is a guy that they've been trying to trade. Does something get done in the 25th hour? Maybe, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. But the NBA trade deadline is crazy. And of all the sports, the NBA trade deadline is the one where shit gets done. Shit gets done. So I wouldn't be shocked to see B.I. get traded. I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be. I think Jimmy Butler's going to get traded. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a couple of other names get moved. Cam Johnson, for instance. But again, is anybody desperate enough to make the move, to give up the assets, to give up what some of these teams are asking for? How bad you want it? How bad you want it? All right. Xavier Tillman. Thank you, Abel Ambrosi. I don't know why I couldn't think of my man X. But we traded him to Boston. That was a small move, but he played some pivotal minutes in the finals, and he helped them, right? I could see a small move like that or two taking place too, like ones you don't really think about. For sure. All right. I'm gonna grab like 1 or 2 comments and then we gonna get out. We gonna get out of here. Loser writes, I know we're long past Chase Young's tenure here, but dang, he was supposed to be our Myles Garrett. We were all hyped up prior to 2020 draft to get him, and now look where we are. Yeah, that again, the term generational talent is used way too loosely. He was a guy that was pegged as the next generational talent. He was the predator. And we fell for a hook, line, and sinker. He got here. His rookie season was phenomenal. He looked the part. I mean, he fit the bill. He was creating turnovers. He was getting to the quarterback. And then the second year, he didn't show up for the offseason program. He went Hollywood on us. He was on Family Feud. He was doing this commercial. He was doing that commercial. And it went to his head. The stardom went to his head. He was at home. He was around his people. And he wasn't getting to the quarterback. He wasn't, making plays. And then he tore his ACL, tore his knee up. And he was never the same. He already wasn't super explosive to begin with. And then he had the injury and he lost a step that he didn't have to give. So it's unfortunate, but that's what it's life. It happens. Right? I'm not mad because we got our quarterback. And if Chase Young would have worked out, maybe we don't end up with Jaden Daniels. If you ask me which number 2 pick overall would I rather have work out, we got the right one. Red Wings. right? It probably won't happen, but I wouldn't mind bringing back Chase. He got a lot of flack for taking plays off this year, but he still finished with 5.5 sacks and 0 starts. DQ can motivate him. Yeah, I'm not interested in bringing Chase back. I'm not interested in recycling Chase Young. I'm not interested in that whole narrative and what that brings. And yeah, I'm not like, but it would be a great redemption story if he came here and played like Jadeveon Clowney did in Baltimore. But Jadeveon didn't go back to Houston and do that, right? He went somewhere else and did that. Now, to your point, you get a guy that has that kind of talent in the right environment with the right staff, and he could be motivated to play the way that he is capable of playing. Could that happen in Washington? Sure. Sure. I just feel like there's too much baggage there with him coming back here, even though it's all different. It's too much baggage. You know, a lot of people would be rooting for him, though. A lot of people would be rooting for him if that were to take place. But I don't see it happening. All right. Red Wing 01 writes, I really have no idea how LeBron and Luka will work together with how ball dominant they both are. Facts, which is what we talked about earlier. LeBron can play off ball some, but Luka needs the ball in his hands to be effective. Facts. Again, Luka has to have the ball. LeBron doesn't necessarily have to have it to be effective, but he needs the ball too, right? Luka has to have the ball. There's no if, ands, or but. He's like James Harden. James Harden doesn't exist if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And James Harden loves to dribble the shot clock down to 2-3 seconds and then give you a ticking time bomb. Do something with it. Luka likes to do the same thing. Dribble that hole all the way down, run off go off a couple of high screens, and roll. And either he'll give you a pocket pass or he'll hold on to the bitch, take a step back, start to post up, try to, take you all the way down on the block. If they double, he'll kick it, but it's 2 seconds left on the shot clock now. So, yeah, I don't see how that works. I don't see how it works. Red Wing 01 writes, I guess it could be like LeBron and D Wade in Miami. The two never had the best chemistry, but were so talented it didn't matter. At least AD in Dallas with Kyrie and Clay makes sense, which is why I said that's not a bad move on paper. We'll see how it comes together. But on paper, that's not a bad move. It's just you just gave up a real generational talent to make it happen, which is insane. In the prime of his career, no less. This ain't LeBron, age 26, 27. Like, this is LeBron, age 41 or however old he is now. Like, it's different now. Like, that LeBron was cutting to the basket. That LeBron, again, not necessarily a guy that was excellent without the ball in his hands, but he could be effective without it. Like that, LeBron ain't running around no more. He ain't doing all that shit no more. It's different. Without question, it's different. HTTR Carson says, Bucks fans are finally admitting this group ain't it. Middleton is cooked, and we are too reliant on Dame and Giannis. You say Middleton is cooked, man. He was cooking our ass last night. Middleton came off that damn bench, and he won't missing shit. Middleton, I think, played 15 minutes in the first half and had 15 points, or 20 minutes through 3 quarters and he had 20 points. Whatever the case, his ass won't missing. I know that goddamn much. So he didn't look cooked to me last night. I'll say that. But that group ain't it. I agree. And not having Bobby Portis, with him being out right now, doesn't help. But I don't think this group is it either. And Doc Rivers doesn't necessarily help the cause either. But I digress. John Perez says Luka can take pressure off of LeBron so he doesn't have the ball so much. He and AD had to win games by themselves most nights. And what do you think is going to be with Luka and LeBron? All Luka did was replace AD in terms of who got to win the game. Yeah, it's still them two. It's just a different dude next to LeBron now. But the difference is one was down low, the other was on the perimeter, so it worked. One was, really good at defense and served the purpose that way. Both of these dudes are out on the perimeter. Neither one of these dudes are blocking, altering shots down low. So they're not going to coexist in a way that's going to make this a great situation for the Lakers now. But what it will do is it'll make them exciting. People want to see what it looks like initially, and then you'll realize quickly, oh, this shit is not gonna work, which most people already know. I'll be shocked if this thing looks tremendous and it's seamless and they work together flawlessly and they're sharing the basketball. That's not how this is supposed to work. It's not how this is supposed to work. Samuel S. writes, the fact that Luka got traded before Trae Young is insane. The fact that Luka got traded at all is insane. Forget about before Trae Young. Like, nobody saw this coming. Trae Young had been a name that was floated around probably like 2 years ago. And I don't think anybody would have been like shocked if Trae Young, we woke up one day or out of nowhere, Shams is telling us Trae Young just got traded to XYZ. Like, we wouldn't be shocked. We're like, oh, damn. This was a shock to the senses. All right. John Perez says Chris Haynes already said that LeBron is staying in LA, and McManaman said that Luka coming to LA may motivate LeBron to sign an extension that could keep him in LA for another 2 years. I mean, obviously, if they play well together, then yes, it would probably energize LeBron. But that's for LeBron to find out over the next month. He'll figure out if this is something he can do. If not, he might be like, yeah, I can't do this shit. So I think LeBron is excited to see what it looks like because this is like playing on the All-Star team, essentially. Like, he never thought he'd be teammates with Luka Doncic. He respects his game from afar. So now he wants to see what it's like playing with him. If it feels right and you just need to add a couple more pieces, get a big, et cetera, then yeah, we could do this. If LeBron sees over the next month, I can't do this shit. He got the ball in his hands way too much. And it's a one-man show. Then, I don't see him signing a 2-year extension. So we'll find out. We'll find out what it looks like. But I don't personally think LeBron's going anywhere either. I don't think he's going anywhere either. All right. Let's transition to our final show segment of the show. And it's garbage time. So I want to talk Jimmy Butler, since this has been primarily an NBA show. Let's finish the show up talking NBA. The Jimmy Butler saga in Miami is comical. Like, we don't need to get into the specifics of that. Jimmy felt like they haven't done enough to surround him with people to win. He then started acting out like a 5-year-old, throwing temper tantrums. They suspended him multiple times for conduct. Pat Riley don't play that shit. If you want to talk old school, somebody that don't give a damn about this new school shit, it's Pat Riley. Like, we gonna do things my way, and if that shit ain't good enough for you, then you can kill your ass. And he don't give a damn who you are. So I get a kick out of Shaq telling Pat Riley stories, you know. Because he don't give a shit. So Jimmy wanted help. We know what heat culture is. We know how it works. We'll try to get you somebody, but we're not going to go out of our way and without and not do something within reason to get you some help. We're not mortgaging the future. Hell, we've been to the NBA Finals. We've been to the conference championship with the roster just the way it is. So if we can get you a little bit of help, we might be able to get over the top, right? Jimmy's like, nah, this shit ain't gonna work, bro. So he starts acting out, and this is the thing that it bothers me with NBA players. They have so much power. No other sport can you essentially be disgruntled and bitch and moan or hissy fit your way out of a situation that you don't like. James Harden has done it multiple times throughout his career already, where he's essentially forced his way out of a situation he no longer wanted to be in. We're seeing Jimmy Butler do it right now. We've seen countless other players not want to be somewhere and make it publicly known they don't want to be there and essentially force their way out of a situation. It's the NBA way. And I was talking to my wife because I said, this is a great example right now that we're seeing with Jimmy Butler and the stark contrast with his situation to that of Myles Garrett. And I told my wife, Myles Garrett holds no cards in this situation. He has no leverage. The only leverage he has is he didn't even have a no trade clause, right, that he can invoke. So he has no leverage other than if they try to trade him. Let's say I use the Arizona as the example because I think if they decide to trade him, which I don't think they're going to do, I think the only place that he'd be willing to go is, the only leverage he would have is he would tell them, I'm not signing an extension with you. So you would essentially be giving up all that draft capital, whatever it looks like, for a 2-year rental, 2025 and 2026. He's a free agent after the season, 2026 season. Who's signing up for that? Nobody. The prevailing thought is if I trade for you, you're signing an extension that'll keep you in with the franchise probably through 2029 is my guess. Right? 2025, 6, 7, 8, and then 2029, there may be an exit ramp, but he'd be with you for the next 5 years, essentially, 4 to 5 years. So he would say, I'm not signing an extension. That's his way of, preventing a team from trading for him. But we watched Trey Hendrickson with Cincinnati, threaten to hold out. Trade me. If you're not going to pay me a contract, what do you do? Play. Because what options does he have? None. And what did he do? Ball out, lead the NFL in sacks. Somebody going to pay him this offseason. But he wanted his money last offseason. What Jamar Chase do? Hey, I don't know if I'm going to play in week 1. Oh, yeah? You can do your little antics at practice, and he didn't show up for practice a couple of times during the end of camp and the first week of the practice for the Patriots game. You want to know why they lost? Because of that kind of bullshit. But his ass showed up and played in that game in week 1. He talked all that shit, but he showed up and he played. And he played the entire season. And they ain't trade him, and he ain't get his contract. We see it all the time in the NFL where dudes try to break hard. They will Le'Veon Bell your ass. Okay, go. All right. Either you playing with us or you play for nobody. It's really simple. You don't control nothing in the NFL. You're one of 53. You're not one of 15. And this Jimmy Butler situation is a reminder that the NBA is different. The players run the league. In the NFL, it's the other way around. The players don't run shit, but they mouths. Okay. You have next to no power as a player unless your contract is up. And even then, a team can slap the franchise tag on you and render your situation irrelevant. Like Jamar Chase was talking some shit this offseason. I just read, well, I'm willing to go to the highest bidder. Negro, please. They slapping that franchise tag on your ass so fast it'll make your head spin. You just got knocked out like Mike Tyson. Bro, what are you talking about? You ain't going nowhere. Okay? Nowhere. So you don't really hold any leverage as an NFL player. Myles Garrett can want to trade. You got 2 years left. You have no power, sir. None. Either you playing with us or you don't play at all this year. Your choice. If the Browns say we're not trading you, bro, Myles Garrett will show up. What is his alternative? There isn't one. So NBA is different. Jimmy Butler's going to get what he wants. It's rare in the NFL that you get like Antonio Brown, Stephon Diggs are a couple of examples of guys that somewhat forced their way out of situations they didn't want to be in anymore. And then Antonio Brown, the Bills wanted to trade for him. He's like, I'm not going to Buffalo. So he nixed that trade real quick, just with his attitude. So you see the rare occasion where a guy is so cancerous in a locker room, so detrimental to the success of others that they got to move on. That's rare, though. And Myles Garrett doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. Jimmy Butler, NBA players will show their whole entire ass to get what they want. Do whatever it takes to get out of a situation they don't want to be in. They're the most spoiled and pampered athletes known to mankind. They get every major treatment that you could think of. Best hotels, best travel. They get all of that shit. It's a lot. They go from city to city and, they're away from their families. It's a lot on their bodies. But make no mistake about it. NBA athletes, they live the life. And unlike baseball players, they make the most money, but they travel a lot too, and they play more games than anybody else. More games than anybody else. So they earn it in baseball. Basketball players have the best of both worlds. Yeah, they play a lot of games. They do. Not as many as baseball. And they travel a lot. And they do a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, they got it made. And unlike baseball, unlike football, they run the show. They run the show. A baseball manager, a skipper, he can set the star players straight and will have the support of the front office. Ronald Acuna Jr. did not run out a ground ball, or I think in this particular instance, he thought he had a home run. He pimped it. It didn't go over the fence. He ended up getting a long single if he would have hustled out of the box and ran, he probably got a triple. But he got a long single out of it. And our manager took his ass out the game, sat him down. Can't do that to a star NBA player. You lost your damn mind. Mike Brown had some shit to say about De'Aaron Fox, and he got fired. Now De'Aaron Fox ain't even there no more. You can't say shit about these players. You can't do shit to these players. They don't like the coach, he gets fired. So Jimmy Butler, for all the shit that he's done, he's about to be rewarded. He's about to get what he wants. They're going to trade him. And that shit to me is amazing. That's amazing. All of his antics have led up to this moment. He wants out. And he's going to get it. He's going to get it. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 480th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. I'm going to be live with my man Tones at 10:30. So if you ain't doing nothing, you want to pull up, be kicking it over on Protect Sports' channel here in a little bit for about an hour. Commanders Kings should be live tomorrow. I'm going to check with the fellas and see what's going on. But I think that's happening Tuesday. I think the NFC East Super Friends are linking up on Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'm going to have to check with the fellas to find out what's what there. And then I'll be live without question on Thursday night for the Command Post Live. And we'll have a slew of topics to discuss, kind of, see the lay of the land by then, because Cooper Kupp's now available and Myles Garrett is requested a trade. And who knows what the hell is going to happen by the time we get to Thursday. Shit's just been crazy here of late. I don't know if y'all also saw, but Brian Johnson had interviewed with the Texans for their offensive coordinator job. Remember, they moved on from Bobby Slime. And he did not get the job. They gave it to someone else. So he is back. So you already see. I hope y'all seeing these tea leaves. I hope y'all seeing the breadcrumbs falling and what's going on. I hope y'all peeping game. They coming after our stuff already. Now, we were able to fight them all off, and we getting all of our shit back. But they sniffing around. They sniffing around our stuff. One more successful year, and you already see where this is going. So much like the Detroit Lions, we better take full advantage this year. The difference is we got one of them ones, right? So I ain't tripping, but we got to make this one count, because it ain't going to look like this in 2026. I think we all aware of what's going on. We're going to lose some stuff next year. We're going to lose some stuff. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly, Louie T Network podcast. I'm going to get at y'all the next time. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. God bless, and good night.